Welcome to The Great Indoors, coming to you again live from Barcelona at Mobile World Congress 2026, where the energy is unmistakable, the conversations are electric, and the future feels closer than ever. So I'm your host, Matthew Roberts, and as always, I'm joined by my producer, the one and only Larissa Yee. Now, if there's one thing that defines this year's show, and we're into episode 9 now, so we've done a lot of discussions of this year's show, it's the shift from imagination to implementation. For many, many years, we've spoken, speculated, prophesized about the convergence of AI, 5G, edge, and automation as something just over the horizon. But here it is. That horizon has arrived. The theoretical is becoming physical. The digital is stepping into the real world. And you know, from the robotics on the show floor to AI transforming healthcare outcomes and enterprise operations, we are witnessing what can only be described as the industrialization of intelligence, where networks are no longer passive infrastructure, but active, intelligent platforms driving real-world impact. Indeed, networks are sexy again. And that's exactly where today's conversation takes us. And I'm delighted, honored to welcome Daniel Lawson, SVP of Global Solutions at Verizon, to the show here at Barcelona, a leader whose career spans over 2 decades at the forefront of enterprise connectivity, now helping organizations translate complexity into capability and technology into tangible outcomes. And joining me in today's conversation as a co-host, and for the very first time, is Amdocs' very own Ganesh Balasubramanian. Hope I said that okay, Ganesh. Bringing deep expertise from across the North American telecom landscape and a sharp perspective on how operators are navigating this moment of transformation. So together we explore how AI is reshaping the enterprise, why the network is, once again, at the center of innovation, and what it truly takes to move from proof of concept to commercial reality. So let's go. Let's get into it. So we are back, MWC 2026. This is The Great Indoors, recording season 12 live at the biggest technology show on the planet. And I'm really excited to welcome our next guest. His name is Mr. Daniel Lawson. He's the SVP of Global Solutions at Verizon. Welcome, Daniel.
Thanks. Happy to be here and looking forward to a great conversation. Continue some of the energy that we see here on the floor.
Wonderful. And joining me as a co-host, and his first time on the podcast, Ganesh from Amdocs. How you doing, Ganesh?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
So let's get into it. I think the first thing is just for our listeners, Daniel, give us a quick introduction of yourself, your history, and what you do at Verizon.
Sure. So for those of you that may not know, Verizon Business is a business unit within the broader Verizon and covers all of our B2B business. And so global enterprise, public sector, small, medium business, as well as our wholesale channel. My organization, Global Solutions, we really all of the technology expertise that align to our customers globally and try to help them solve problems, as well as some of the things we do in professional services, some of our industry expertise. And so really a group of professionals that is really about problem solving, right? And talking to our customers and understanding how we can help use our technology to help them operate more efficiently, scale, be more secure, those types of things.
Perfectly. And how long have you been at Verizon?
Hard to believe, but June will be 25 years for me.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've done, I feel like almost every job in BBG, or supported every type of customer, I should say, from the smallest to the largest, to the most simple and straightforward to the most complex. So it's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Great. And Ganesh, just give our listeners a quick brief on your role.
I work with our North American operator customers. I've been a year in Amdocs, about 20 years in telecom industry. I work with Verizon fast. It's great to, again, have you on the show, Daniel. I love the way you phrased your role and your team, problem solvers. That's a great, how Verizon helps.
Yeah. We also use the phrase dot connectors, which obviously is a good analog to connectivity as well.
I like it. Now, we're on day 3 of the show.
Yep.
I'm sure you've done at least 25,000 steps a day, and you may have seen a lot of stuff. Now, normally when we come out of this show, there's an underlying theme. There's some commonalities that we see. What is it you've seen so far that surprised you, amazed you, or what do you see as some of those themes that have come together?
At a high level, I think one thing that I've really noticed is the sort of the confluence of events on the timeline that we're in right now with AI, with 5G, with edge, with sensorization and cameras, a lot of the things that we've talked about through concept over the last 3 to 5 years are now actually starting to hit, the factory floor or, the real world. And so you're starting to see that translation between theoretical AI and physical AI.
Yeah.
And so to say what amazed me, actually, there's a couple of things. One, I was speaking to a surgeon yesterday and talking about how they're leveraging private 5G as well as imaging to create a three-dimensional superimposed view over a surgical patient, and how that's generating so much better surgical outcomes and also better doctor experience as well.
Yeah.
So like real world examples of how this is coming to fruition and generating real value and on a human scale, not just on a P&L scale, right?
Exactly.
So like an amazing thing that's happening. And we see this across the healthcare industry. There's so many clinicians that are involved in the technology and making sure that it's fit for purpose and actually making things better.
Yeah.
So that's just been really amazing to see. And then, the other thing that you can't walk 50 meters here without seeing robotics of some sort, right?
Exactly.
So like, again, you're at this confluence of events that is just startling to see how much has changed in the last 12 months, but also how much will change in the next 12.
And I think that's it. For as long as we've been doing this podcast, we've speculated, we've prophesized, we've imagined some of the things that, like you said, that confluence of technology could bring. And now it seems to be here.
Yep.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. And then, speaking with Don McGuire from Qualcomm 2 days ago, he said that one of the things that they're looking at with 6G, when you bring in the physical AI into wearables, is glasses. So he was wearing the Ray-Ban glasses, which I've seen so many people wearing at the show. But he said the technology will be then you will buy glasses and you will not need them to be customized for your prescription. They will alter to your eye ability. And I was like, wow. Just overlaying the healthcare.
Right. And as someone who's worn corrective lenses most of my life, like that's an amazing change, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the biggest thing I'm seeing in the show is the use cases that are evolving. They're no longer technologies. He says that, a select few are working or select industries are working, right? It's the common man use cases. There's a booth there that's showing AI for restaurants, right? But you talk about robotics that are from far in the future, but stuff that now is already happening. And it's more closer to the common man than it was ever before. Right? It's very fascinating. Right?
And so taking that AI and taking specifically the areas that you look at, Daniel, in B2B, how do you scale that for enterprise now? How do you package that up? What's the platform strategy that you need? Because we can see demos and proof of concepts and we can look at it, but you've now got to make that a commercial reality, right? And get that into your customers. What are the challenges and issues you're seeing in being able to do that?
Yeah, so I think the platform aspect is probably the most important. Connectivity hasn't always necessarily operated as a platform in the sense that it's, scalable, dynamic, flexible, those types of things. And so, we're sort of thinking about the confluence of these technologies in sort of a layer cake, right? Yeah. The top layer is sort of the models, the inferencing, the intelligence. And then there's a middle layer that's really orchestration that connects the model to action in the physical world. Yeah. And then the physical world are the robotics, the connectivity, the networks. Think of it as the nervous system, if you will. Yeah. And in order for the network to fully participate in that ecosystem, it has to be a platform, one that, it is like a developer platform. You could build applications, you could build use cases, to your point, right, that are actual specifically oriented for the types of performance on the network that's needed. Yeah. And so for us, the focus has been around how do we build in that scalability? How do we build in the stability, the resilience, the security into that network layer, so that it's a full participant and can deliver, up and down the stack. Yeah.
And the simplification of that platform was also something that Verizon's been constantly focused on, right? If a customer comes in, my journey needs to be more simplified as opposed to a complex buying process. So I think that's something that Verizon's focused on.
Okay. That's right. The front-end integration to customer environments, right? That has to be frictionless, just like cloud is, right? Yeah. And, that extends all the way through the operational platforms as well. Like, how am I orchestrating resources in the network? That has a direct correlation to how well, the customer outcome is delivered.
Yeah, wonderful. Now that's,
Now, so that you want to commercialize, put the platform in place, be able to offer an eclectic mix of applications to your enterprise base. But with relation to AI, how is that affecting the customer experience element of what you're providing for the customers?
So we look at AI sort of in three categories. The first being applied, like how are we using it to operate more efficiently, to create more personalized experiences for our customers, those types of things. The second is embedded, and how do we build it into our product portfolio, and sort of the AI ops type of framework. And that will continue to be more and more agentic as time goes on, where you have fewer people operating the network and more agents doing the work with potentially human in the loop. And then the third is around enable, like how do we enable the enterprise business, the enterprise clients to take advantage of their own AI journey.
Yeah.
And so it's really a combination of those. We want to make sure that the experiences that we're building for our customers are delightful, right? And they're personalized. They are delivering the things that are most important to him, not necessarily how we want to provide the network, but how they want to consume it, right? And that's, again, goes back to that platform framework, which is, that we have to build into the network platform the flexibility, the reliability, the scalability, and maybe most importantly, the agility to respond to changing needs and whatever's the next development, which we know will come.
No, and it's a question that I love to ask our guests. So you've been in the industry for over 25 years, like you said, Daniel. How exciting is this moment for you?
It's super exciting because we're at a point in time where the sort of the heritage of the telecom industry, which has been cumbersome and has been maybe a little bit more slowly moving than other parts of the tech sector, it has rapidly caught up, right? And so the things that maybe encumbered us in the past are now an unlock, right? And having spent most of my professional career in the networking space, the network is sexy again, right? Like the inference at the edge, these use cases coming to life, they don't happen without that nervous system, without that connectivity. And so going back to the surgeon example, right? You really see how this is delivering real benefit in society, in business. So that's just what could be cooler than that, right? It's like reliving the .com days all over again.
Exactly.
I think when 5G came up with these monetization use cases, people couldn't still connect the dots. But with AI coming in and layering it on top of 5G, now people are able to see how it connects the dots, right? Not just to monetization, but to actual real life examples that they can touch and feel.
That's right.
And take more control over it.
That's right. I think the saying that sometimes being early is indistinguishable from being wrong. I think some of those things were so early that people just had a hard time grounding it into reality. Now you're seeing reality.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's when we go back to themes. I think it was 2 years ago, and I had a number of guests, and we looked at. We said partnership seems to be a big theme
for sure.
This theme, right? And we all know we can't do everything on our own. We live in a world of a geopolitical world of disruption and divisiveness. But this industry, the partner ecosystems are not just critical, but they're much more harmonious. Would you agree?
100%. I think that's a couple of things. One, I think you're right. There's been a sort of collective realization that there's no one organization or a group that can do everything. And so leaning into what we do best at that global scale, and then surrounding ourselves with like-minded people that are also focused on outcomes and our customers together, and building partnerships. I mean, I think that's great. And then I think there's been a technology enabler around the standards bodies and significant simplification of how platforms integrate, so that it really can be a best of breed type of an approach. So I think it's the ecosystem and partnerships will continue to be a huge part of our success going forward.
I think having that platform, the Casabar, that can quickly onboard partners, I think is important. Because in this day and age, everybody's got access to AI. Everybody's got these new ecosystem or platforms that they are building themselves, and they want to be part of a broader ecosystem.
It's incredibly democratic. Everybody has access to almost the same capabilities, and that's we're only limited by our imagination, I think.
Now I've got this question I'd like to ask you, Dan.
Sure.
Talk about, and leading on from partnerships, talk about Kodiak. and the driverless trucking. It sounds pretty interesting, but I don't know anything about it.
It is. So, if anyone drives really anywhere, in the developed world, you see, those big 18-wheelers, right? And, there's a percentage of vehicle deaths in the U.S. that happen on highways that are due to these large trucks. And so safety is obviously a huge concern. And then you think about how much time these folks put on the road, right? And there's, just getting tired, there's all sorts of things out, right? Yeah. Kodiak has a super interesting technology that's driving these trucks autonomously. And so it's been a great partnership where, they're the experts in shipping logistics, automotive, trucking, all those types of things. Yeah. But they recognize that, to our partnership conversation, right, there's a need for super high reliability, low latency connectivity, as well as the ability for their AI to orchestrate changes to the truck. Yeah. Right, so it's a perfect match for our global IoT network as well as our ThingSpace platform which does all that orchestration. Yeah. And so it's been an amazing partnership, and to see those trucks on the road and some of the metrics that they track around, safety, predictive maintenance, all those types of things, that really is what we see as the future of autonomous driving. Yeah. And it's we've just been delighted to have a chance to partner with them.
No, and again, going back to the point of things we used to speculate about and dream about, and to reinforce your original product, there's the manifestation of the reality. Yeah?
It's there. That's right.
Yeah. And then the next thing that we've written down here is the ThinkSpace platform. Mm-hmm. Give us a little bit more on that, if you could.
Yeah. So as in the Kodiak example, right, there's all sorts of things that are dynamic with connections on the network, right? It might be the SIM profile. It might be some additional services that are added on over the top, whether that's for a period of time or whether that's sporadic. There's the activation and deactivation of connections, right? Yeah. We've invested significantly in the platform that's embedded in the network itself to allow you to do all those things through standards-based APIs and really creating that platform feel. And that can also hook into whatever workflow engines our enterprise clients, or public sector clients for that matter, are using. Yeah. Right. So, we talk about how do you make it easier to consume? How do you make it easier to build solutions? Space is a huge enabler for us in that regard. Gotten really, really positive feedback from all of our customers who are using it.
That sounds really good.
Getting people on it is much more faster seamless that Verizon's enabled. I think that's a big differentiator.
So we covered a couple of cool examples there, the driverless trucking. We talked about healthcare before. What other areas are you seeing in the enterprise domain at the moment that are pretty cool and quite?
Yeah, look, an enormous amount in manufacturing. We're seeing everything from 5G torque wrenches that are operating on the network. So you think about it, tightening bolts, and having to take a reading. It's just all that happens at once, right? So for some of engine manufacturers and things like that, where those tolerances are really specific, you're able to deliver better quality of what's coming off the manufacturing floor. And we're seeing things around inventory management, always a concern in manufacturing and supply chain logistics. Heavy dose of computer vision for predictive maintenance. AGVs, AMRs in the manufacturing floor for picking and inventory management, delivery, shipping, receiving, all those types of things. Yeah. And really, one of the things that we're so passionate about, or one of the reasons we're so passionate about private 5G and neutral host infrastructure and those types of things is, and it's the same in hospitals as well. You're dealing with, very significantly RF challenged environments. It's a perfect technology. You need to complement with all the other things that we're doing at the edge, Wi-Fi, wired, all those types of things, to really deliver some of these real world physical AI use cases.
Yeah. Now, here's a question. As I've seen this come up this week and it's on our neighbor's booth a lot. What are your thoughts on 6G? Is it too early to start thinking about it? Where do you think, what gap does it, because to me it's the first G iteration that is AI native, if you will, right? Now that may not have been the case until, but what are your thoughts on 6G?
Yeah, we have such a long runway on what we're doing in the narrowband and also on 5G that I'm leaving the 6G conversations to our folks, our distinguished engineers and fellows who are working with 3GPP and other standards bodies. So I haven't really given it too much thought at this point, but you're right. The AI native aspect of it will certainly be a game changer because we've seen it how much of an impact AI has had everywhere else.
Right, absolutely.
I think bringing them together, the next G and AI is definitely going to accelerate this adoption of new areas that the AI can, manufacturing is definitely low-hanging fruit, right? We look at robotics, here you can the physical AI that we talk about, right? But with the next 6G coming in, I think there's going to be more of those areas that they can explore.
Yeah. And I think what prompted the question, and I will use this in other interviews if you don't mind, Daniel, but you said the net worth was sexy again, right? It's back again. Over the years, these upstarts that have come in and, they may hit their call, but, it's back, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a fundamental component of how we continue to actualize all the amazing ideas that people are coming up with.
Yeah. Now let's do a little bit of future gazing.
Sure.
And if we come back in 12 months' time and we're sat here, the three of us, what would you like to see? What, not just at the show, but in the industry, have evolved in a 12-month period?
I just think further significant advancements in the physical AI space. So I think, excuse me, the developments that we're already seeing in robotics, and then sort of the native integration of the AI models at the edge. Much of what's happening in AI is still really centralized training of the models. I think the real value is when you take the model to the data and where the data is created. And so the robotics advances, the model advancements, and then the connectivity advancements all coming together to really take a step function improvement in operational efficiency in the warehouse or manufacturing floor or patient outcomes in the healthcare setting. Like, I think we'll see even more of those amazing use cases, and it won't just be like, oh wow, I talked to this one person. You're going to see it, at scale.
Wait, I think so. Some question too, Ganesh.
I would really prefer more industry standardization and security controls, right? Because that would help accelerate all of that we're talking about. Because right now, everybody's doing their own ad hoc thing. But if there's more industry standardization and security advancements, right, it's going to just help the industry as a...
Yeah, I think that's really a great point because, as we see more agent-to-agent interaction, that's almost... rewind the tape 5 or 8 years with APIs, right? Unless everybody's speaking the same language, it creates a lot of complexity.
Yeah. So I've really enjoyed speaking with you again. This is how we finish the show now. It's called TGI to go.
Okay.
It's a quick fire fun round. It allows our listeners to understand a little bit more about you, and we finish on a nice high. Okay. And I'm going to ask you both the same question.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 2 choices. You just give me your preference.
Got it.
That's TGI to go.
TGI to go.
So let's start with you, Daniel. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Dogs.
Do you have a dog?
I do. Yeah. Nelly. Yep.
What breed?
She's a lab mix.
Okay.
Yeah, but she acts more like a cat. She just sleeps and doesn't really like people, but she's a dog.
That's good. But you miss him when you travel on business, particularly when you come to a dog city like Barcelona.
For sure.
Cool.
I do not have a dog, but I did grow up with dogs. And my kids are now trying to convince both me and the wife to get a dog, but taking it easy. It's a big commitment.
It is.
I think you've got to do it. I think we've got to do it. Now, you're going out for dinner this evening. Would you have a glass of cava or a glass of sangria?
Cava for me. Yeah. We're in Spain and, we'll
That's what you got to do.
have low cava.
Yeah.
I would usually say sangria, but I'm sangria out the last couple of days. But for me, it's some cool down.
I like it. So let's talk about sport. Are you a football guy or a hockey guy?
I'm going to go with hockey just because we've had so much excitement with the Olympics wrapping up recently and some amazing games and really all throughout the medal round. But, where U.S. hockey is certainly on a high now. Both the men's and the women's showed up really well.
Yeah, and I'm Canadian. So, it was
well competed.
For my 8-year-old son, he was pretty devastated.
I can imagine.
Slightly different from me.
Yeah.
Well, neither. I'm more swimming and tennis because that's what my kids practice and play, right? So
You're a cricket guy, right?
of course. But now, the time I get, more than to swing.
Yep.
All right. So, do you use Instagram or TikTok?
I do not.
No. That's an interesting question this week.
I bet.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm an old school Facebook and Twitter guy.
That's what I'm like.
Yeah.
Neither. My wife is trying to get me on Instagram because she sends me these links and she wants me to watch them. But I'm not because it just sets up so much of the time. Yeah. I'm more of a little guy myself.
There you go. And the final question. We could go somewhere for a short weekend break after the show to recuperate. Would you choose London or Paris?
That's a tough one. Love both. I think London, such a great restaurant scene. Of course, Paris has that as well. Yeah. But, I spent a lot of time there. We have an office there.
Verizon Business does. Yeah.
And lots of friends in the city. So I think I'll go with London.
Yeah. That's cool.
I don't know why you picked London or Paris, but Paris.
Yeah.
Yes, because I was just in London, so I would pick Paris.
Well, that's it. That's great. And where are you based? Are you in New Jersey?
I'm in Dallas.
Oh, you're in Dallas?
Yep.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Look, I want to say thank you for joining the show today. I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's been really insightful and a lot of fun at the end. Is there any last thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with before we sign off today?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a great conversation. And I think, just encourage people to really push the bounds of creativity, because I think we're at a place where all the ingredients are at our fingertips. And I think we can really have significant positive societal impact and business impact. And what's more fun than that?
That's true. Well, thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you, Ganesh. We'll see you next time.
All right, very good.
So thank you very much, Daniel, for taking the time at such an incredibly busy show to come and sit with us and have that discussion. One of my favorite discussions of the show so far, and always an honor and a pleasure to speak with Verizon executives and get their thoughts. And thank you, Ganesh. Thank you for joining me for the first time. We'll see you again on the show very soon, hopefully. So if you wish to hear all the other episodes in this season, this is episode 9, and there's many more that precede it. You can find them all on amdocs.com/The Great Indoors. Indeed, you can find 11 other seasons worth of episodes at that same website, as well as a cornucopia of videos and assets related to the series. Also, we've done an Adaptive Spirit live from Vail, Colorado special edition with the US Paralympic ski team and the cable industry, which is also available on said platforms. So one more episode in this amazing season 12 from Barcelona. Until next week, I'm Matthew Roberts for Amdocs in Barcelona. And have a great day wherever you are.